All right, today we are diving deep into a fascinating document, a kind of master blueprint that claims to pull back the curtain on a hidden global system. It talks about this ancient machine, one designed to literally harvest human energy using some pretty wild methods, like legal tricks and sonic frequencies. It's a really complex and, frankly, out there view of the world, so let's just jump right in and unpack it.
So, here's our roadmap for this journey. First, we're going to try and understand what this blueprint calls the global static. Then, we'll look at the so-called ancient hardware that supposedly powers the whole thing. After that, we'll explore the maritime trap, a kind of legal software for control. We'll identify who the blueprint calls the system's managers. And finally, and this is the important part, we'll look at how it says you can reclaim your own energy or charge. Okay, first up, let's tackle the core idea of this whole thing. This concept of an invisible, constant harvest that's being powered by something called the global static.
So what is this static? I mean, that's the big question, right? According to this document, it's not like radio static. It's more like a pervasive, invisible frequency, a kind of hypnotic rhythm that's broadcast across the planet, designed to keep all of us in a very specific and manageable state of mind.
And here's what they're supposedly harvesting. It's not our money, not our data, not our resources, but something the text calls human charge. Think of it as our vital life force, our spiritual electricity, the very essence of what makes us us. This idea is the absolute foundation for everything else we're about to cover.
So how is this harvest even possible?
Well, the blueprint uses the ancient symbol of the Ouroboros, the snake eating its own tail, to describe the system. It's a perfect closed loop. And it was supposedly created by these ancient, non-human entities the text calls watchers, for one purpose: to perpetually feed on that human charge, creating a totally self-sustaining cycle of energy extraction. Now here's where it gets really interesting. The blueprint claims this isn't just some spiritual or metaphorical concept. No, it says it's a physical system, powered by very real, ancient hardware that's literally embedded into the earth. So let's start with the power source. The battery for this entire global grid is identified as the Anode, and it's supposedly located in Mpumalanga, South Africa. This is where, according to the document, the Earth's own core energy, its charge, is anchored and drawn from. Okay, so once you draw that raw energy from the source, you have to process it, right? The document points directly to the Great Pyramid in Egypt as the processor. Its job is to take that energy from the anode and then refine it, manage it, and get it ready for broadcast. And finally, every system needs an antenna. This is identified as Mount Hermon. And get this, the source claims this was the original landing site of those same watchers we just talked about. Today, it supposedly functions as the main broadcast tower, beaming that static frequency all over the world. And check this out. What connects all three of these incredibly important ancient sites? According to the document, they all sit on a single straight line, the 31st Meridian East. It acts as the main power rail, this direct line linking the source in South Africa to the processor in Egypt and all the way up to the antenna at Mount Hermon. Right near that anode in South Africa is another key piece of hardware, Adam's calendar. The blueprint says this is way more than just a circle of old stones. It's described as a sonic transducer, built from crystalline rocks that vibrate. Its job? To broadcast that hypnotic rhythm, a constant piezoelectric pulse that keeps the global static stable and keeps everyone tuned in to the system. Okay, so if that was the hardware, the physical grid, the blueprint, then gets into the software. This is the complex legal and commercial framework it calls the maritime trap. This is how the system supposedly ensnares individuals. So this is a really critical point in the document. It lays out two completely different jurisdictions. You have the land, which is the realm of the living, the source of life and energy. And then you have the sea, which represents the realm of the dead, of commerce, and it's governed by a totally different set of rules, admiralty or maritime law. The whole goal of the system is to trick you into moving from the jurisdiction of the land to the sea. So how do they pull that off? The document has a pretty wild theory it calls the phonetic spell. It suggests that written language itself, specifically the phonetic alphabet, was engineered to turn the living, spiritual spoken word into dry paper contracts. And these contracts, well, they operate in the commercial realm of the sea, which allows them to completely bypass a person's living spirit. This slide shows exactly how that trap is supposedly sprung. It goes like this. A person is born, a resident on the land. The system then just waits.
It monitors you for the first 7 years of your life. And if within that time, your estate, which is your natural sovereign claim to the land, isn't formally claimed, you are legally declared lost at sea. And at that point, your life force, your charge, can be salvaged under maritime law, just like abandoned cargo on a ghost ship.
So you have to ask, who runs a global system this massive? Well, the blueprint actually names names. It identifies key administrators who were put in place across the globe to manage this grid and keep the harvest going. Two main figures are pointed out. In the east, you have Vishnu, the preserver. His job is to manage the flow of liquid wealth, that's the harvested human energy, and to make sure that Ouroboros cycle never, ever stops. Then in the west, you have Quetzalcoatl. His role was supposedly to sync up humanity to the Watcher frequency by creating a calendar based on the cycles of Venus, trapping our perception of time in a whole new rhythm. Okay, so let's bring this into the world we know today. The blueprint argues that this ancient system is now operated by what it calls a three-state empire. Basically, a trinity of independent city-states that act as the modern operational hubs. And these three hubs, they all work together, each with a very specific job. You have the City of London, which handles all the finances, the harvesting of currency. Then you have Vatican City, managing the spiritual and legal side, the trusts and contracts that trap people in that maritime system. And finally, you have Washington, D.C., which provides the military muscle to enforce the system's boundaries and keep everyone in line. Now, after laying out this incredibly detailed and, let's be honest, pretty dark system of control, the blueprint doesn't just leave you there. It actually ends by offering a key, a way for anyone to exit the trap and get their energy back. The solution it presents really comes down to three things. First, you have to know deep down that your own charge is the real value, not paper currency. Second, you have to align your personal frequency with what it calls the solar clockwise rotation, which it claims naturally pushes back against the system's pull. And third, you have to make a conscious choice, a declaration, the residence decree, where you state that you are a resident of the land and not a legal fiction that's lost at sea. And we're going to end on this final thought, a direct quote from the document itself. The engine only works if you remain in the trance. The moment you see it, you are the ghost in their machine. What it's really saying is that the entire system relies on us not knowing it's there. The second you see the mechanics for what they are, you stop being a predictable cog. You become something else, a ghost in their machine. And it leaves us with a pretty provocative question, doesn't it? Is simple awareness the ultimate key to breaking the cycle?